Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. So I think here we are for the last panel of the day, and it's really heartening to be amongst the team here that we've been meeting virtually over the last few months, and then today at College of Canyons. So it's mainly like we've seen the tools, we have seen the fundamentals. Those are the two key components that Kwaai is working on, and the third one is the policy. So what I'm going to cover is what are the concerns, what are the complexities and challenges that we visualize, which we want to influence in all areas that relate to AI, in our mission to democratize AI and personal AI that we've seen various speakers talk to today. Next, please. So the scope that we are working on is related to the intellectual property, because we as employees, we work in different organizations, and there is a lot that AI can capture from the value that we generate. Now, how much do we own of that? How much does our organization own of that? So I think those are some of the questions around intellectual property that become very, very relevant for us to address as we shape the policies in this area. Ethics and security are also the other aspects that we encompass while we talk of the scope of the different personal AI things that Kwaai is working on. Next, please. So the areas of concern that we have are primarily regulatory, which means that the regulations that are set in at different levels of governance are in tune with the benefit reaching the people. The legal aspects of how the information is used, security, the ethical considerations, because AI can at times be biased. We've seen, depending on the training data set, depending on the coverage of the audience or the information, there can be a lot of biases in those systems. So we need to ensure that there is an ethical approach to what we do. And also, now we're addressing the adoption of AI, so which primarily means that how do people get the information, how people know what is AI, what it can do to them, what they need to do about it. So all those aspects that help us adopt AI in a more equitable manner, those are also some of the things that concern us today. Next, please. So in the ethical AI development, as we see, transparency of the information, what my information is, who is using it, to what extent, how much of that is my ownership. So those questions, accountability. So information can be used, stroke misused in whatever different ways. Now, who is answerable for that? Who is accountable for that? Those are the other questions. And then, as we talked about bias a little while back, so these algorithms in the AI that make all the decisions with respect to our communications, with respect to different actions that we take. So all those are also become very important part in our policy decisions. Another aspect that we see, or another complexity that we see, is in the interoperability. So the ability to work with different devices. It's going to be a very, very connected world. It's the IoT, the IIoT, and so many different sensors with our mobile devices, all the different applications that we work on. So how these services and platforms interact with each other in a manner that is contributing to the overall cause of an equitable and justified, ethical, responsible use of AI. Diversity of technologies and standards. So I think we heard about Tesla having set the standard. So again, it's very important in this case also that we set those standards. So what those policies are going to look like, how that approach we adopt is something that comes in this part. Then the other complexity and challenge is data management. So we've seen the data guidelines, the data privacy acts that have come up in Europe, in North America, and in different parts of the world. So how do we make sure that while we work with the AI, while we work with the personal data, how do we remain compliant with those regulatory aspects, those data privacy laws and systems? And finally, we should also be aware of the unintended consequences of adopting AI. So how do we tune our policies that mitigate these risks that we see in as the unintended consequences? So for example, we could become over-reliant. We talked about people getting used to it. So maybe they just try to let everything that AI can do, let it do. But again, what's the limit? So that over-reliance, job displacement, again, one of the things, but it's not exactly job displacement. We probably need to be cognitive of the fact that if jobs get displaced in one area, there are more openings elsewhere. So how does the ecosystem adapt to those changes? Those are also some of the complexities and challenges that we need to deal with. And privacy breaches, as it says, also is one of the key considerations. Next, please. We heard about the Hollywood strike. So the Writers Guild on strike, the Screen Actors Guild, which is still ongoing. So these are some of the activisms that we have recently seen in the news, and they are for a right cause, because the labor that goes into from the writers, from the actors, how much of that equity do they own in the companies, in the organizations, in the studios that they work? So the Writers Guild of America, I think it was a very long strike running over 5 months, probably the second longest in the Hollywood history, and it led to an outage of all the production work immediately after COVID. But the writers, they emerged victorious at the end of it. I think 98% of their demands were met from the final resolution that was adopted both by the union of the workers for the writers and the studios. So we need to see that how this activism can be taken to its next logical level of making an impact on the policies that help avoid these outages, but at the same time provide a level playing field, more equitable usage of the technology to all the different stakeholders in the different ecosystems that we have. So regulation, I think we already touched about, but then in the European Union, there is an AI regulation that has come up, which is paving the way to some extent in terms of defining the regulations, the legal aspects, and the policies. And there are also some self-regulatory frameworks which just use the AI itself. So I think those are some of the other things that we've been hearing about and which are important for us in Kwaai to understand and to be able to use in shaping the policy of future AI usage, especially in the personal areas. Next one. Now, coming on to the education part, so there are a few of the things and that we can learn from this particular coverage that I've tried to bring in here. So we have the privacy and data security. So in education, when we are trying to use AI, and USC will be starting from November 3rd week, it's a trial of using the Microsoft 365 Copilot. So as the enterprise license, the college gives access as a premium feature to all the students who can use that Copilot, and it helps them in whether it's emails, whether they're Word file, whether making their presentations, defining their curriculum, or making out their own plans. So in different ways, students will be permitted to use this. And I think USC is one of the colleges that has also taken initiative to give a lot of flexibility to their professors. So the professors can allow the students open chat GPT, kind of a thing, and they can have their own standards as to what kind of information do they want back from the students. How much flexibility is given to the students, and see how that is impacting both the students learn in a better way and also professors teach in a better way. So I guess those are some of the things that we are seeing already happening in the ecosystem. But customization and personalization, as you see, so the ability to adapt to each individual learner's style, what they need. I think those are some of the areas where personal AI can be very, very helpful. And again, policies need to be evolved to make the best use of those things. Bias and fairness, I think we've talked about. But yes, we do want that whatever content is covered in the college through these AI systems, the content is moderated. The assessments and recommendations, whatever emerge from the professors or the different faculty, they are also they have minimum biases. And then we do not want to reinforce stereotypes or discrimination against certain group of students, because those biases tend to creep in the AI systems or the tools that we tend to use. So again, how do we take care of those aspects is another question, especially when it relates to education and using AI in those areas. Ethical and responsible use. So the aim is to support learning and not to replace the human educators. I think that's a very key thing. And what my personal view is that yes, all of us, we have got different skills based on the different experiences that we get. So AI helps us uplift our game in some of the things that we are not that good. And it helps us maybe improve even further where we are good at. But still, the creativity, that aspect is still with us. And that will always remain so. So I think having remaining cognizant of that approach is very, very essential when we are trying to adopt AI in education. And finally, I think it's more about the preparedness of teachers and students to adopt to the new AI ecosystem that we are trying to sort of see in the future as we go forward. So integrating AI tools into curriculum and also interpreting the AI generated insights. So I guess those policies and those frameworks that we think about and we adopt, they are going to help us in a much better manner when we really come to reaping the fruits of AI adoption. And yeah, so the other aspects that we see in the education system are like at a functional level. So plagiarism. But again, as I said, professors can institute an open chat GPT kind of a system in their evaluation or in their submissions, and also evaluate at a level to see what is the personal contribution of the student and not just what is there already. So those are the things that we see: hallucinations, truth, how much of bias is there in the system. So I guess we need to be really conscious of those things also when we talk about issues in the education. Productivity. So and we heard Riza talk about that. So can my last 10 years of grading as a professor help determine a model that I can use to evaluate students in a better manner? Maybe utilize my time for something more productive. So again, and how much of that is the ownership of the professor? How much of that the university owns? So those are again the things that we will have to look into. And then academic freedom, curriculum, and the overall policy that goes into this area is something that is very important for us to understand. And lastly, I will touch base on some of the key initiatives that at Kwaai we are undertaking. So one is like the contract guidelines. So defining the AI tools which are AI tool rights as an employee. So I think that's one area that's under consideration. What employers can retain post-employee departure, the level of information, the skills-based insights from the employee. Then there are these licensing agreements like general public license that we talked about earlier, the AI training data. So those are again some of the things that are really at the focus when we are working at Kwaai in this policy dimension. And finally, it's about also the responsible AI certification. So the models that we use, what is the quality of those models? How much is the bias in those? What's the scope of the training? The model providers, are they able to certify those models? So I guess these are some of the things that are right now in the limelight when we are working at Kwaai in our different meetings, and more of it will continue to evolve depending on how the situation changes by the time. And I'm very hopeful that in the policy dimension, especially just like the tools and the fundamentals, here too, Kwaai can make a lot of difference by helping steer the policy as per what the need of the hour is, as per the public feedback, and then let the governments come out with those policies, let the ecosystem evolve accordingly. So we end up using AI in an ethical and a responsible manner, which helps everyone and removes the apprehensions from people, which are right now at a nascent level that we see in the daily, day-to-day, our interactions or in the news, or we continue to read about it. So that's pretty much that I had to talk about policy. But yes, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.